What's up, everyone? Welcome to the April 2nd edition of FanDuel Tournament Plays presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at Prize Picks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. Tonight, we have a three-game NBA slate. The NBA seemingly not wanting to compete with the NCAA Final Four all that much. So only three games tonight. Obviously, that comes with lower opportunity cost. But one nice thing about this slate is all three of these games feature two teams that are in playoff contention or firmly in the playoffs. We shouldn't see any shenanigans like we got from the Pistons yesterday, where they just decided halfway through the game that they wanted to sit half of their starting lineup. These games should be competitive. All three games right now are separated, have 2-point spreads, two games with a 218 total, one with a 240 total in Atlanta. But that does make it nice, at least a little bit more competitive of a three-game slate. But as always, tune into Live Before Lock in the hour leading up until tip on the Awesemo YouTube channel. And for now, we're going to take a look at 5 of the top tournament options on FanDuel using the Boom Bust tool on Awesemo.com. Starting at number 5, Mike Conley is point guard only on FanDuel. He's $5,300, projected for 29% ownership, but with a 36% chance of being in the optimal lineup. You shouldn't worry too much about the relatively difficult matchup against Golden State, because as I mentioned at the top, 2 of these games have identical 218 totals, and then you have the one Brooklyn-Atlanta game that is at 240. But you it's not as much of a concern that Conley has a difficult matchup against Golden State, because on the other side of this game, Golden State is facing Utah, which is another difficult matchup. Chicago is facing Miami, which is a difficult matchup. Miami only has a 110 implied total as well. So it's just a situation where relatively speaking, the opportunity cost just isn't quite as high. Matchups don't mean quite as much to me, don't concern me quite as much as they would on bigger slates or slates where you had more favorable matchups to choose from. Conley's playing time has been ramping up a bit recently. He's averaged about 28 minutes per game and 1 fantasy point per minute in the games he's played with Donovan Mitchell this season. Over his last 10 games, you've seen about 29 and a half minutes per game for Conley. Over his last 5, you're at about 30 and a half. So I think you can expect him to get around 30 minutes tonight against Golden State, and he's pretty inexpensive. Number 4, Andrew Wiggins is small forward only on FanDuel, but he's only $5,600. He is projected for 32% ownership with a 36% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Wiggins is not the best point per minute guy overall this season. He's at 0.94 FanDuel points per minute. Curry being out is nice, but you're getting that usage replaced by Jordan Poole, who's at 30%. We know Klay Thompson's a high usage guy. So Wiggins is still basically the third option offensively, and as such is very capable of disappearing in any given game, but you're still likely to get 33, 34 minutes from Wiggins at close to a fantasy point per minute and at a very inexpensive $5,600 price tag. Number 3, Jimmy Butler, small forward and shooting guard eligibility at only $7,800. He's projected for a very healthy 40% ownership, but with a 43% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Butler is taking on the Chicago Bulls, facing his former team in Chicago. Not that that's all that relevant, just kind of worth mentioning. But a favorable price tag for someone that averages about 1.1 to 1.2 fantasy points per minute and is likely to give you about 35 minutes at a sub 8K price tag. Number 2, Trey Young, point guard only, $9,900 price tag on Young, projected for 42% ownership with a 45% chance of being in the optimal lineup. You do need to keep an eye on Trey Young's status here. He is officially on the injury report as probable. The Hawks categorized him as a game time decision and said that he is still dealing with some soreness in his groin. I am assuming he plays. If he doesn't play, it's the first game of the night. Obviously, do not play him if he's not in the lineup. It would open up a lot of value elsewhere on Atlanta. But assuming he's in, this is a game where the Nets and the Hawks are competing for seeding within the play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference. Both of these teams want to win this game badly. You should get a ton of playing time from all of the main pieces, but in particular, Trey Young on the Atlanta side, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the Brooklyn side. Young has averaged about 1.5 fantasy points per minute in the games he's played without John Collins this season. He has a favorable matchup against the Nets. Should play a lot of minutes, like I said. Just projected to go a little bit under-owned, even at 42% ownership. And then similarly, coming in at number 1, Kevin Durant, 47% projected ownership, but a 50% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Durant is only $10,800. He has small forward and power forward eligibility. And as I mentioned just now when I was talking about Young, I fully expect Kevin Durant to be getting around 40 minutes if this game's competitive. There's no real reason to think he's playing less if this game's competitive. And he's averaged about 1.4 fantasy points per minute in the games that he's played without James Harden and with Kyrie Irving this year. Really good spot for Durant, really good spot for Young. If you can get him in the same lineup, there's a little bit of positive correlation there as well, as they would both benefit if this game comes down to the wire. To recap, the top 5 tournament options on FanDuel: number 5, Mike Conley; number 4, Andrew Wiggins; number 3, Jimmy Butler; number 2, Trey Young; and number 1, Kevin Durant.